Hey folks, welcome back to our channel. My name is Nigel and this is Offgrid Van Life, where we look at van conversions, lithium iron phosphate batteries, off-grid power, and basically anything that you need to help you find that adventure and to get on the road. And so in this video, what I'm going to be looking at is this guy, which is a motorized ball valve. And I'm going to be installing this on my van on the grey waste outlet. So essentially, currently what I've got is just a big manual ball valve, just an old-fashioned one, and I'm going to install this guy with a simple switch which I'm going to locate in the van where similar or close to where I'm going to be sitting as the driver, but also somewhere that's going to be accessible from the back as well, the habitation area. And the idea behind this is that this would just enable me to essentially drive over a waste disposal area of wherever I would dispose the waste, and instead of having to get out and go and open the tap and sort of stand like this, opening the tap so that it doesn't splash all over my legs when I do that, I can just literally drive and stop where I need to stop to empty it, flick the switch, it'll open. I can wait and just keep checking the level on the dial on the information board in the van, and then once it's emptied, I can then flick the switch again. It'll close the motorized valve, and that's us done. Don't have to be getting out, going and opening the garage, opening the tap, waiting, then closing the tap, etc., etc. But one of the things that I'm going to do, got these fittings here, which is just a very simple T-piece that reduces down to a 1/2-inch pipe. So these I'm going to put onto this here like that. Obviously I'm going to be putting PTFE tape to seal it, but this will essentially be a manual bypass for emergencies. So I'm going to just put a very simple bypass around with a simple ball valve, just a small one. And yes, it's only 1/2 inch, so it's not ideal. It would take quite a long time to drain the tank, etc., etc. Given that the tank is currently already draining on a 32mm pipe or 1 1/4 inch pipe. But this is just so that if we are somewhere remote, say south of Europe, like Spain or Portugal or something, and this ball valve happened to fail, then at least we can still empty the tank without having to figure out how to empty the tank while it's full, etc., etc. Because this ball valve, the way that it works is that when current goes to the ball valve, it has a solenoid inside, but it opens when it has current. If you take the current away, then it automatically closes, and its default setting is to closed. So obviously, if it was to fail, the default setting is to close. You can't, there isn't a way, as far as I'm aware, to bypass that to force this to open. So that's why I'm just putting in the manual override just for emergencies. But yeah, we're going to get to installing this and see how we get on. I'm going to start by drilling a pilot hole. After drilling the pilot hole, I then drilled the main hole with a Forstner bit, just because it's a bit cleaner than some of the big hole cutting bits that you get. And then dry fitted the switch to make sure that I got the right size, which I did. And then I started to open up the electrical box to get to all the wiring so that I could wire in my cable that would go to the switch and then to the electric valve, and then pass through the cable through the cavity, and then secured it up with cable ties onto the conduit that runs along the bottom of the floor in the van. Pushed it all the way through to the back locker, which is where the valve is going to be located. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to walk you guys through what I've done so far. So just if we swing around the door here, there's my switch, nice and neat, flush. Pretty happy with how that looks. I can reach it from the driver's seat. If I just drive over somewhere that I want to dump the waste, I can also just reach in here from outside and find it easily. There's also the curtain. I've put it up, but it hangs through here and just covers the switch, which will actually be ideal because then hopefully it'll hide it from my little kiddos, because I've got two young kids which will love to flick that switch. So we go then the back of the switch, got those two cables there connected. The one on the top is the wire that runs all the way to the back that's going to go to the valve. This is the one that goes to my live takeoff. So obviously I've got a fuse connector there. Don't have a fuse in yet, obviously, because I haven't terminated the wires at the end, so there's a risk of it shorting if I did put a fuse in there. So I'm going to leave that fuse out until I'm ready to connect everything up. Everything's neatly goes through here. Both of those live cables come out. Here's the one that goes to the back, which is obviously just a twin core flex. That goes to my earth bus bar down there, and then my positive takeoff comes off my ECB board here. So that's the side that goes to my leisure battery. Obviously when the engine is running, then I have this relay that disconnects that, etc. Even though I have a B2B charger, DC to DC charger that charges the leisure battery, but that's further on in the van. The wire then will go in behind there. I've cable tied it up with the rest of the wiring at the back there. Can't really see it, but it is there. I'll take you through here. Hopefully you can see up here. But got conduit with the wiring running all the way up there. I've just cable tied it to that. The wire goes underneath the cavity here. I've cable tied it all the way along the back, alongside the two tanks, so the fresh and wastewater. Oops. And then the wire comes out over here, and so we are ready to put the motorized valve in over there. So pretty happy with how that's looking. So next thing we're going to do here is to remove this old pipe and to take out the old valve that is here. Okay, so here is the electronic valve that I am putting into our camper there. So I'm just going to demonstrate quickly how this actually works. If I get the polarity right, I will show you. So this valve can supposedly run on both AC and DC, and the range that it can run on is like 9 to 24 volts or something like that. So you can actually test it on a 9-volt battery. So if you watch the inside of that valve there, as soon as I connect it, you can see the ball turning there. There we go, that's it open. And as soon as it disconnects, it automatically closes. So just a very elementary motorized valve. So the idea being that you just have a circuit with your wiring coming from your battery, and you just use a switch to either open the circuit or close the circuit. So when you close the circuit, as in you turn the switch on, then power is sent to the valve. It opens, drains the waste. When you turn the switch off, it obviously closes, it opens the circuit, so it breaks that connection and the valve will automatically turn off. And when it's in the off position, it doesn't use battery power. When it's on, it uses a tiny amount. Apparently it's just a nominal amount. That's what the description is. This one's made by US Solid. That's the logo there. Quite a well-known, fairly big brand. Obviously, like many of these things, they're made in China, but has pretty good reviews, and the build quality seems pretty good. The one challenge with it though is, this is the second one that I bought. I bought another one identical from Amazon, got it, and it was faulty, it just didn't work. Couldn't get it to work at all. Sent it back, bought this as a replacement also from Amazon, and this one now works. So what I'm doing here is I've got some pipe work. Essentially one of the things that I wanted to do was I want to put a manual bypass in here. So the main reason for that is because this defaults to the closed position when power is taken from it. What I don't want is to be in the position where we are in somewhere like Spain or somewhere remote, and this thing breaks or stops working. We have a full waste tank, and then we have to figure out how we empty that. and go through that whole process would be a total pain to do that while we're traveling. So what I want to do is just to put a very simple manual bypass in here, just using a manual small 1/2 inch ball valve. Obviously 1/2 inch is not ideal because it's a very small pipe, it'll take a long time to drain, etc, etc, but it's literally just for emergencies if we're ever in the position where we can't actually empty the thing and we need to do that. So I'm going to be assembling this all together, but essentially got a couple of nipples like that. They're going to go either side of the motorized valve. Then I've got these reducer T-pieces, which will reduce down to the 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to put a 1/2 inch, just a flexible hose between the two with a valve on the one side. And then these will obviously go down, come from the tank feeding into here, and then go out the bottom of the vehicle to where that's going to go. So one of the things that's quite helpful when you are putting on PTFE tape is to put it the same direction as your thread, so that when you tighten it on, that it doesn't crumple up, that the PTFE is running in the same direction as your thread. These are fairly big fittings, so I'm going to pile on the PTFE here so that I make sure I get a good seal, especially on the side that will be holding the waste. Obviously on the drain side it's not as critical, but the other side where the waste will actually be sitting for an extended period of time, I want plenty of PTFE there so that it definitely seals nicely. Then it was just a case of basic plumbing, which is just connecting all of the parts together. Pretty straightforward plumbing this really, and once I'd got that all connected, I was then able to put in my manual bypass, and this is just a simple 1/2 inch pipe which will take quite a long time to drain the tank, but it's just for emergencies really, if the electric valve ever died. We then put the whole assembly into the back of the van. We used the hole that was already there because I didn't want to drill another hole. So we had to put the whole valve assembly at a bit of an angle just because of the length of it. I'll explain more. And then obviously secure it down with some clamps and screw it into the floor to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. And then finish off the wiring. It's just a very simple positive and negative connection, so very straightforward. Okay, now we are installed. Let's test this out. So here's our little on switch. So we're just going to quickly flick that to on and go back here, and we can hear the valve open there. Got that sealed off there, the pipe going out, the bypass works as well, no leaks in here, so that's good to see. Had to angle this slightly. Originally I was going to drop this just straight down the hole with that pipe, but couldn't actually get it in there. I thought that I had more room to be able to push it back into that cupboard there, which I didn't, so I've had to go this route. It's fine for what I'm going to be doing here. Pretty happy with that, and it's then just dropping under the vehicle, so we can just drive over whatever we want to dump it into and drop it. Okay, and then just to finish everything off, I made a little cover for the electronic valve, and this is actually just made with the recycled plywood from Delilah from the Nissan van. So it covers the box nicely, sorry, the valve nicely, and protects it, and then just is a bit of a shelf that we can utilize that space for light things like rubber boots. And there we have it, folks. Got that installed in the van there. Pretty pleased to have that, and it's going to make life a lot easier. So yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.